Coming to you from a cozy little condo high atop Old Fourth Ward, Atlanta. Welcome to The Ron Show on America One Radio. Here's your host, Ron Roberts.
I am on the road. I made this decision, like spur of the moment, Tuesday. I'm going to go down to New Orleans. People are like, what? No, I did. I just made this spur of the moment decision. My friend Darrel, who I have known for, Darrel, how long have I known you now? Like 30 years? About 30 years.
I think so. It's a long time.
My friend Darrel is, he's one of those party planner types. Like, he loves to throw a party. He was throwing an election watch party, and he was telling me all about it for the weeks leading up to it. And I'm like, okay, that's great. Yeah, great. I mean, there's no way I was going to be there. I was like, okay, good for you. I'm happy. You know, what channel do your thing, buddy. And Tuesday, as I got done with the show, early actually, I was done with the show really early, like at 9 a.m. I was like, I don't have anything work-wise to hang around Atlanta for. I've got this closing that's lingering that we just keep having to move. And should I sit at home all day Tuesday and just be riddled with anxiety and watching cable news for confirmation bias or you know, bad news or otherwise, tea leaves, et cetera and so on? Or should I just go to this party? The food looked really good, by the way, and it was really good. I think it was the shrimp fettuccine that like totally sold me. I'm like, I'm going. So I hit the road and I came to New Orleans and showed up at the election watch party. And by the time I got here, you were already starting to see the tea leaves. Like, right. You know, I was kind of listening in as MSNBC was giving returns through Bluetooth on the way down. And I could sense when North Carolina and Georgia weren't going to go Kamala Harris' way, that if those two states weren't going to fall for Kamala Harris, that we either weren't going to get a result on Tuesday night or the result we were going to get wasn't going to be good. That's kind of my sense when I walked in the door on Tuesday night. Anyway, Darrel is here to join me.
Hello.
And I decided, you know what, we were sitting here talking. In fact, I'll just go ahead and give you full transparency here. You're listening to the Thursday Ron Show, but we're actually doing this Wednesday morning, literally in the aftermath of what can not even conservatively be described as like a terrible outcome. And there's plenty of fault to lie, and I'm sure there's going to be the postmortem within the Democratic Party, within the Kamala Harris campaign. But he and I are just sitting here spitting, talking, and I was like, you know what? Let me just grab the recording equipment because we're wasting good content here. And so my friend Darrel joins us, and thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. Darrel
happy to be here.
Is a lifelong Louisianian, former Air Force. You know, we've again known each other for 30 years, and we've talked politics for a long time, and we're both, I would say, you know, of the Bernie wing of the Democratic Party. So we both kind of come from that mindset that, you know, the Democratic Party really hasn't done enough to shore up the left flank of their base. And here we're in the aftermath of another election cycle where, ho-hum, the Democratic Party chose to align themselves with the Liz Cheneys and the Charlie Sykes of conservative talk radio, and we're wooing those soft Republican voters. And
once again,
surprise,
right.
Soft Republican voters didn't show up for the Democratic Party. Right. White women did not show up for the Democratic Party. So, does that mean that the progressives didn't show up? We don't have data yet. I don't think that's really the problem. I think there was probably a little bit of apathy, specifically when it comes to like the Israel-Gaza situation. But we're once again sitting here having these conversations, around the kitchen table, literally, with cats in tow and all, and trying to figure out like, well, where do we go from here?
Happened,
yeah,
what went wrong, and
right.
They're going to dissect this election. When they do the postmortem. And I'm interested to know like what went wrong. I don't think it's any one thing. I think it was just a bunch of things. That's probably what they're going to say, and we have to figure it out. And we've been saying that for a long time. What is it? What can we do different? And I heard somebody on MSNBC last night saying, we're not saying throw trans under the bus. What is all this talk? We didn't answer those ads about, your child's going to get a sex change at school. They're going to come home another sex.
Yeah, we didn't answer that.
We didn't answer that, and so I'm not saying that cost us the election, but the right wing went after young men, and they did it surgically when I'm reading, and it worked. So it was probably a confluence of things. But whatever it was, it worked. And it's not working for us, whatever we're doing. And like a lot of people were saying, it was a very, very good campaign, Kamala Harris.
I thought she ran a great campaign.
And a lot of people said that if we lost, it wasn't anything she could have done different. I tend to agree with that. What could we have done different? It was just built in that it was going to happen because people are so bitter about the economy and things like that.
Yes.
But, I'm not saying there wasn't something we could have done different, but it was a really good campaign.
I think if I can push back a little bit, one of the things that I think that the Kamala Harris campaign did too much of and could have course corrected on in the last couple of weeks, you actually mentioned not answering to the anti-trans stuff.
Right.
And I have a little bit of insight into that only because I'm a sports guy. I'm a gay guy and I'm a liberal, but I'm a sports guy. Mm-hmm. So I watch a lot of football. Football that I do care about, football that I don't care about. Just if it's on, I'm watching it. The World Series, baseball playoffs, et cetera, and so on. Mm-hmm. That anti-trans TV commercial, two of them actually, one of them featuring Charlemagne the God and his co-host, whose name I forget. Charlemagne actually sought to get a cease and desist on that commercial and was unsuccessful in doing so. He didn't want to be represented by it, because he doesn't. In any event, those commercials ran unabated, unanswered on sports programming, which obviously targets a majority male audience.
Sure.
And there was no answer to it.
And I didn't even really know this was happening until you had mentioned it to me, because being in Louisiana, I'm seeing zero ads.
Yeah, you're not in a swing state, right?
I'm not in a swing state, so I don't get to be a part of this election. We know which way Louisiana's going to go. And so I didn't even know those ads were running. And then you had mentioned it to me, and then I started hearing it and reading it elsewhere. So that's one thing that they could have done, was answered it and not thrown trans under the bus. Obviously, we don't have to. It's answer the misinformation that's going on. They went after young males and Latinos. And there's this false machismo that I don't understand. That they think Donald Trump has and exudes, and it's so false. And why we were not able to demonstrate what a facade that is? I don't know. How can so many people see it and so many people be blind to it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't answer that.
Well, and also we talked about some things that the Harris campaign probably could have done differently or didn't do correctly. I also happen to think, and I know it's blasphemous for women who listen to my show maybe, I think of Melita Easters with the Georgia Win List, and we talk a lot when we have her on the show about abortion. I think the campaign was so focused on abortion that it's an issue that Democrats win on the issue, but don't win over hearts and minds when it comes to partisanship. And that showed itself in election results on Tuesday night. 7 of the 10 measures passed.
Correct.
An 8th would have if Florida didn't have that 60% threshold. But it was 57%. So on 8 of the 10 issues, the vast majority of voters agree with Democrats on abortion, but they don't want to become Democrats because of abortion.
Right. And so I see it like, okay, they get to have it both ways. They get to vote on the issues, but not for the candidates, that support the same issues they support. They are voting for candidates that don't support them on the issues they support. But now we give them a choice. You can have your terrible candidate, and you can have progress on these issues.
Yeah. Well, but that's only in the states that even allow referendums. Right. Texas doesn't do that. Georgia doesn't do that. We're literally seeing women dying in both of those states. ProPublica has done a great job exposing, the deaths that are happening in Texas and in Georgia because of draconian abortion laws. And those are just 2 states that they're actually even focusing on.
There was another issue that popped up on my screen last night that it was not abortion, but it was a liberal Democratic issue that also passed, and I just can't remember what it is. But it's another example how these referenda did not help us or not helping us. Like I said, they get to have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah, and I understand why Democrats might have thought that putting these referendums on ballot would have helped, because we saw this happen in 2004 with Republicans and gay marriage. Gay marriage bans were on several ballots at the state level in states that were swing states. That George W. Bush, coming into that year, was not a popular president, and it carried him back to re-election. So I understand why Democrats thought that might have helped. But where I think I was getting at was, I think the Kamala Harris campaign focused so much on abortion, thinking that was going to woo the white woman over, the white conservative woman over, and obviously it did not.
And for 2 years, we had, all these off-year elections that were in our favor that we pulled out, even when the polls said we wouldn't. And it seemed like the abortion issue was definitely helping us. And so I guess we thought we could maybe milk it one more time for the big one. And you're right. I don't think that panned out.
And to the extent that, again, the thing that does carry elections over, and we've seen a wave globally where anti-inflation pushes and poor economy sentiment cost incumbents across the globe. It happened here as well, except
Correct.
In the United States, the unique situation we have here is like we combated inflation. We wrestled it down back to norms. The economy, by all economists who are worth a damn, would tell you is the economy in the U.S. is the envy of the world.
Right.
For now.
And now they get to inherit a great economy.
Again.
And mess it up for us.
Right. Well, Elon Musk literally said that that's what we would have to do. He literally, I'm trying to remember the tweet.
There's going to be a transitionary period of pain, something like
that. Well, he talked about mass deportations and how that's going to cause some temporary, economic, pains. He literally affirmed that on the Twitter X platform. And, I mean, they're telegraphing what they're going to do.
They are. They told us what they're going to do.
I mean, folks, if you think grocery prices were high before, wait until the agricultural industry is ransacked for whatever immigrant labor that they use, and the food processing industry the same. Do you think, having to pay to replace those employees with higher waged American? And listen, I'm all for that. Like, come above board with this stuff. Like, if anything, if you want to deport or imprison people, how about you imprison the people who are doing the illegal hiring?
Amen.
Like, they're the ones shirking responsibility. If you don't want stray cats on your front porch, you don't put out kibble, right? That's who you need to go after. But, they're literally telegraphing that they're going to tank the economy, at least momentarily, or for however long that's going to be, so that they can re-whiten the country.
Right. And, how are they going to execute this? I thought about this with Latino support for Republicans picking up. Have they not thought about that, when they start rounding people up, I mean, is it gonna be a papers, please situation like in Nazi Germany? If you're gonna be targeted simply because you look Latino. You could have been born here. You could be an illegal immigrant, but because you're brown, well, now you're gonna be questioned.
Yeah.
So I hope people are ready for that.
There was a tweet that I shared yesterday. Follow the Ron Show at Ron Show ETL, by the way. I think I mentioned him yesterday, the Elie Mystal tweet. Latino voters did not vote against their interest, he says. If you understand that the person who gets into a treehouse has no interest in pulling up the ladder behind them. Trump only promised to push the bad Latinos out of the tree, and they're confident that doesn't mean them. I call it the I got's mine mindset. I'm here, I'm safe.
That is the I got's minds. And I have a problem with the word bad Latinos. This country, we both know, is built on immigrants. They're an asset. They contribute to the economy, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, and they're being wooed by bad profiteers.
Amen.
It's
just a political wedge.
Yeah. Well, and it's a global reality. Between climate change and all the struggles, the internal struggles in their home countries, a lot of which have our fingerprints on them, whether economically or militarily speaking, they're coming here because we have done our part in wreaking havoc. But we don't discuss that.
No,
we don't apologize as a country, and we don't discuss where we mess things up historically.
People don't really know that.
No, you're right. Messaging.
So
yeah, messaging is a problem. We'll pick up this conversation where we left off. I'm going to take a quick break and come back. It's The Ron Show on America One Radio, Progressive Voices via TuneIn or wherever you podcast. You can follow The Ron Show on your preferred social media platforms. That would be at Ron Show ETL. I will not give up the ghost on Twitter X, damn it. I'm staying there as long as Elmo allows. Facebook, Instagram, Threads. Speaking of Elon Musk, he, according to a Vox article, and I saw the tweet and I thought I retweeted it. I can't find it in my history here. Eric Levitz at Vox is reporting. Elon Musk assures voters that Trump's victory would deliver a temporary hardship economically because he literally basically admitted that this mass deportation, fever dream, this wet dream that they have about mass deportation, not only is it going to cost tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars, in taxpayer dollars to pull off, but it's going to wreck the economy. And Elon Musk, in a tweet was basically like, yeah, probably, essentially. but they don't care. Never mind the fact that Elon Musk himself is an illegal immigrant.
Absolutely.
Like, he came here and overstayed. Like, he is an illegal immigrant, but he's white and he's wealthy, and so it's okay. It's totally different.
I mean, the hypocrisy.
Yeah, well, we're long past hypocrisy.
Right.
We're living in an era, and I want to thank again King William for joining me. Yesterday from the Breakdown with King William on Substack for talking about the fact that we don't have a left wing media entity to answer to the right wing, conglomeration that has risen up over the last 5 or 6 decades. In response to the civil rights movement and, to work in simpatico with the Southern strategy. Mm-hmm. We just don't have that. We're talking about, like, where does the Democratic Party go from here? We're not even sure what the House will look like or if Hakeem Jeffries will be, like, our Speaker of the House or will just, again, be the minority leader. But he is, in essence, the de facto face of the Democratic Party.
Right.
But is he the it guy?
Right.
What do you think? My friend Darrel is joining me, by the way. I forgot to mention that. I came down to stay with my buddy Darrel. He is a big political. He loves throwing a good party. And he thought election night would be a great night to throw a party. And the food was good. The party was great. The results, not so much. That's not your fault. So who is the face of the Democratic Party?
If he becomes the Speaker, he will be the face, the de facto face of the Democratic Party. But, we need new leaders, and we're slowly getting younger new leaders, and we just have to put all our hope in that. Going back to the media, the conglomeration, I am tired of hearing about how, the left-wing media, the MSM and all of that. And the media really failed us. And one of the biggest failures and why Trump has been reelected is because, as we've heard, they normalized his behavior. They normalized his statements, everything. They're actually afraid of him now. We've seen evidence of that. So there was that first week 2 weeks after J6 when it was unanimous. His own party turned against him. The statements that a lot of Republicans made, it's all on record. And what happened? So sure, they might change their mind. That's their right. The Republicans who criticized him and made statements that are on record. But why did the media? Where did they go? Why did they normalize all of this? And they did. And this is the result today.
But also, Merrick Garland slow-walked
Absolutely.
the prosecution of it. The J6 committee took too long and ran out. They ran out of time on the clock before the House went back in Republican hands. And
Donald Trump simulated a sex act with a microphone the week before the election. And imagine if a Democrat had done that. I mean, there are so many things, thousands of things we can point to that if a Democrat had done, that would have been disqualifying.
We talk a lot about the sort of things that he gets away with, but it also comes down to white privilege. I saw where a black podcaster had said that it's a master class in white privilege. He can't say enough racist things to be a racist. He can't commit enough crimes to be a criminal. He can't fail enough times to be a failure. He can't say enough stupid things to be stupid. The idea of him overshadowing any reality. The Christian savior who doesn't know the Bible, the adulterer who f***s porn stars and steals from charities. Right. It's the promise of the protection of whiteness he represents.
Amen.
I mean, that is the long and the short of it. That's exactly why he maintains that sort of aura of, a deity with enough of the voting base. And it's not even like that they're the majority of the GOP. We saw that when he ran in 2016. He never won 50% plus in any of the primaries until it was him and John Kasich at the very end. But there's so much fear in the GOP of standing up to him that these feckless, spineless weasels like Ted Cruz, who couldn't win an election in his own damned house, but somehow manages to win Texas Senate races all the time.
Right.
They're fearful to stand up to him. And I don't think in the aftermath of January 6th was it was a few days, and then Kevin McCarthy's down at Mar-a-Lago licking his boots.
Right. And
days.
Then that kind of started the wave of Republicans changing their mind about what Donald Trump had done, and then there was McConnell deciding not to, if he could have corralled Republicans to go forward with the impeachment and actually convict him. Yeah. And I think they just thought, we know what they said about Donald Trump in private, how much they loathed him, and they thought the system would just take care of itself. But no, they allowed it to happen.
They were part of the system.
Right.
They were central to the system and had every opportunity themselves to deal with it and never did.
He'll never see justice. They had an opportunity there to serve justice, and they didn't.
Well, and maybe, I don't know. You would have thought that by 2024, the American voter would have said, well, the Republican Party's not going to take the trash out. We have to do it.
We have to, and we didn't do it either.
We didn't do it either.
And all the reasons that tweet you just so eloquently read off, that's the epitome of failing upward. He had was a charity, but what was that example? He had a charity set up.
Oh yeah, it was stealing from a children's cancer charity. For God's sake.
In every aspect, all of his business failings, et cetera, et cetera. It was always a failure.
It just makes you wonder how much of the American electorate actually relates to any or all of that themselves.
And a lot of people don't know. They just don't know.
No, that's true.
And they're not paying attention. They get whatever trickles down to them.
Yeah.
They don't really watch the news, so they hear it from people, they get on social media, and...
Well, how many of the young voter hadn't even heard the grab him by the pussy audio until it was on TikTok at the very last moment? Anyway, quick break. Back after this, The Ron Show on America One Radio, Progressive Voices via TuneIn.
This is The Ron Show on America One Radio.
So I'm doing a show, putting this one in the bed a little early. Because I decided on a whim Tuesday to hit the road, come down to New Orleans, hang out with my very best buddy Darrel, who's having an election watch party. Wah, wah. But here it is the morning after. I know you're listening on Thursday, but this is the Wednesday morning after where we're having a little bit of our own little postmortem. And we got to talking a little bit between segments here about the things that will be undone, in the next 4 years, things that, have been very promising, strides that were made under the Biden-Harris administration that, Trump will either take credit for, how many Republicans voted against the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, and then would show up at the photo opportunity, the ribbon cutting of a highway expansion or something along those lines that, they would, seek to take some credit for. That'll be Donald Trump the next 4 years, the Infrastructure and Jobs Act that he'll take so much credit for. But I wonder how much of the green energy manufacturing will be undone or paused. How much of any of the green energy initiatives. We were talking about the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, and I keep going back to the bike, the kid on the bike meme. If you don't know what that is, there's a kid on a bike, and he's riding along, but he's also poking a stick in the front wheel spoke, and then the next frame, he's fallen over, and he's grousing about somebody else causing it. To me, that is the American voter. Not all of us, but the MAGA majority, the MAGA voter, I can't even say majority, the MAGA voter that continues to vote against their own interests or not vote at all and complains that somebody else is causing it. We were talking about hurricane refugees. Here we are in New Orleans, Louisiana. Obviously, we both lived here during Katrina and in the aftermath, and a lot of folks became hurricane refugees. A lot of them live in Atlanta now, by the way. It's why every time the Saints show up, there's pardon my French, a ton of Saints fans in Mercedes-Benz Stadium because they live in Atlanta now. But I was watching, I think it was 60 Minutes, this woman, her and her husband, they were part of a story years ago about fleeing the Florida coast to find a safe place to live where they wouldn't have to deal with the effects of hurricanes. So they moved to Asheville, North Carolina. Wah, wah. And then Helene came. And you said you actually knew somebody that did the exact same thing.
I know someone that last year moved to Asheville, North Carolina, because we had Ida happen here. You remember because I went and stayed at your condo so that I could be a refugee for a week. And I thought, that's a great idea. I think I should maybe move to somewhere like that to get away from it because I'm tired of it. And my homeowners is through the roof now. People can't afford to live here anymore because, like in Florida, the homeowners, the flood insurance is unaffordable. So, and then, look what happens. Asheville gets one. That whole area did.
Western North Carolina, by the way, went overwhelmingly for Trump.
Nowhere's safe. And didn't you know before it was even over that they were going to politicize this?
Of course.
I mean, I knew they were going to politicize it. And of course they did. They don't mind capitalizing on the misery of others. They don't mind doing that. But
it's also like on the left, it's not even politically expedient to look at the American voter and go, no, you did this. This is you. Because Americans don't like to be told anything is their fault or that we are. We can't even give a true reckoning of history in this country without hearing from parents of white kids. Well, Now my kid comes home feeling ashamed to be white. Oh my God, get over yourself. First of all, your kid doesn't think like that because I grew up in a school where I learned about the Trail of Tears and slavery and, kind of got an idea. I didn't learn about like Black Wall Street riots and the Wilmington lynchings and things like that until later on in life. But it didn't make me ashamed to be a white person. It made me ashamed that we didn't learn this kind of shit in public school to begin with.
Right. And it goes right back to how great they are at phraseology. If you tell people, well, you need to be ashamed about this. I never thought about in my life that learning history would make me ashamed. It's kind of like, wow, they did that. That's terrible. But no, now they're telling us, almost subliminally, oh, you need to be ashamed about this. So now we can be against the teaching of history.
Which, I was thinking about this morning as I was walking to the convenience store to go get a nice coffee. Will we be even allowed to teach this chapter in American history? I have no doubt, full confidence that the second Trump presidency may not be as disastrous as the first, but I think has the potential to be even worse because the guardrails are gone.
The guardrails are gone, and now they learned from their first experience. Just look around him, his cabinet, Mike Pence, all these people who we, make no mistake, we disagree with.
They were comic book villains, and it's going to be worse.
And his Joint Chiefs of Staff. I remember there were high-ranking military officials back when his first term that were letting us know, tangentially, like this is not going to happen. Some of the things he's saying are not going to happen. Well, you heard him say a couple of weeks ago, I want generals like Hitler had.
Yeah.
Who are going to just follow orders. And those are the kind of people now he's going to place around him, appoint, because he gets to appoint a lot of these people. Now he knows who to appoint, who not to appoint.
Well, and we keep hearing the demonization of Project 2025. He survived that. So how much of Project 2025 actually becomes a reality now that he gets to embrace because he has no political repercussions to face ever again?
And I don't know if you were in the room last night, and one of my guests had mentioned, she remembers when birth control was not even available to women unless you were married. And
to get your husband's permission to get some of this stuff.
Get your husband's permission to sign for a credit card. Now, I don't see that happening, but, we've definitely heard a lot of talk, especially from evangelists, about controlling birth control access some more, And so I expect, because they're going to have a big seat at the table, I expect to hear more about that now.
I'm kind of curious, and it'll be interesting to watch what happens in states like Texas and Georgia when it comes to reproductive access, and seeing that we actually have evidence of women who are dying because their doctors are too timid to act because of draconian state law that seeks to prosecute them. It'll be interesting to see if there's any adjustment made by the right to address any of those issues at all. I can't imagine. I literally cannot imagine, but I mean, again, we're living in weird times. I can't imagine they're going to leave that unaddressed when it comes to tinkering with these state laws, these abortion laws, that at least allow some sort of exception to give doctors some leeway to be proactive when a woman needs
So now we get to find out their whole reason, we didn't make it illegal. We're just letting the states decide, right? And so now some people, powerful people will have a seat at the table, and they are going to agitate for a national abortion ban. Who's going to stop them? They have the Senate, they have the Supreme Court, they have the presidency, and we're going to find out who has the House. So I am very much in suspense what's going to happen with that.
So let's do a little more prognosticating. I mean, it's easy for us to hyperbolize or go worst case scenario when what we expect of the Trump presidency. I mean, I obviously think that there will be some sort of a course correction 2 years from now if Democrats can get out of their own way and maybe stop capitulating towards the center right and start working on bringing back in the progressive left. Maybe stop demonizing the Bernie people still. I mean, my God, that's still a thing.
Right.
But the next 2 years could be kind of crazy, especially with the no guardrails. Obviously, his cabinet appointments are going to have to pass, legislative scrutiny, and they don't have a filibuster-proof Senate. So perhaps we can work towards formulating some of those guardrails. I don't know. But what happens for the Democratic Party? Who do you think steps forward? I fear that there's so much angst within the party to want to deal with like the now problems that they'll be looking at 28 thinking, well, let's deal with the 24 problems. Like we don't have somebody macho enough. So we need to go after somebody macho. Who the hell in the Democratic Party is macho? I'm not even like, I think of John Tester, but John Tester's, I don't know. I thought Tim Walz honestly scratched that itch.
He sure did.
And for some reason, he sort of kind of got, sidetracked, buried a little bit like J.D. Vance did on the Trump side. But I don't know who that macho itch is.
Right.
I immediately come to think, the strongest person in the stable, the strongest horse in the stable, when it comes to running for office and standing on a debate stage and dais, is Pete Buttigieg. But he doesn't scratch the macho itch.
Right. And it's a shame we have to scratch that itch.
Right.
I mean, why not cerebral? But
Right.
we tried cerebral.
We've been
with
trying that
John
for way
Kerry.
too long.
Our candidates are always cerebral, and
Right.
there's I don't know what you call them, but they never seem, George Bush and
Well, it makes me evocative of the Mitt Romney era, for God's sakes.
Right,
God,
exactly.
give me a Mitt Romney Republican Party at this point. I feel like we'd be in a better place, like where you could get back to a position of sitting at a table and discussing policies and facts and fiction.
Right. We're going to have to find some leaders. They're going to have to emerge. Right now, it's this. We're still experiencing the aftermath, and everyone's just shell shocked right now. And somebody's going to have to emerge to pick up the pieces.
Is it impossible to elect a woman president of the United States in this country?
And what I said last night, I was like, the Democrats are never going to nominate a woman again. I mean, look. I mean, I hate to say that. It's probably not true. But after experiencing Hillary and Kamala, which both times we thought they were going to get in, the polls sure showed that Hillary would, and we didn't. And everybody agreed, the vibe, the momentum was on Kamala's side. The donations, just, and it happened again. So, is it a woman thing? Is it Americans are just not ready to elect a woman? I hate to think that that's it.
Yeah, I do too, and that's why, like, when I think about Pete Buttigieg, I go, well, if we can't elect a woman, a white woman, a centrist, moderate right woman, white woman, and we can't elect a multicultural black woman, liberal, I don't know that this country could stomach the idea of electing a gay man president.
I don't either.
With a family and kids. I mean, that's just that comes back to the whole they them trans argument. Even though I think, like, in most rooms that he walks into, Pete Buttigieg is the smartest guy in that room.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, he goes on Fox News, and he really brings it.
He owns Fox News anytime he's on it.
But we've seen time and time, Republicans love to go to that LGBTQ they did it with gay marriage, and now they're using trans. I mean, are they ever going to run out of issues? And it's always, like, it comes back to machismo.
Yeah.
But
that also makes me think about the narrative that we have uniters versus dividers. We keep talking about being the United States of America and how patriotic the right is, but like they're anything but. They do not love this country, not all of it.
No.
They love their version of it. Their Cracker Barrel, stop at Buc-ee's, listen to country music. Watch Fox News. They love that version of America, but they don't love America. The ideal, the melting pot, the give me your tired, your poor, your huddled. They don't love that.
They want to exclude other. And here's Kamala Harris going around saying, "No, I'm going to give my opponents a seat at the table." We just don't hear that kind of talk.
Not from them.
So,
well, they can point to Tulsi Gabbard and RFK. And Elon Musk, who professes to have been a Democrat before,
Right.
They point to them and go, well, this is bipartisanship. We're bipartisan.
Right.
I mean, Tulsi Gabbard has an anti-gay history. Elon Musk is a trust fund grifter who, he's no different than Donald Trump.
Right.
He's not a successful person in and of anything that he does. He acquires success and preens and peacocks over the success of others that he's purchased the work of. And RFK, need I say more? The man ditched the dead bear in Central Park, for God's sakes.
Right.
He's anti-vax, and he could be the next DHS secretary, for God's sakes.
Right. So what are they going to do with vaccines in general? Because it doesn't sound good.
So what do you think happens to? Well, first of all, I'm also kind of lamenting and mourning a little bit what I thought was going to be a a Biden presidency that history was going to look back on kindly, even if public opinion polling right now does not. And obviously, since now he will be replaced by Donald Trump, who will undo so much and create so much havoc, I think any of the gains made the last 4 years by Joe Biden are going to be largely erased. A lot of it out of spite. So I think that the Biden legacy is sort of going to become a bit of a footnote. So what happens to him is, I mean, he's an old guy. He's going to retire into the sunset and hopefully have a prosperous decade or so longer to live out his days. I don't know, like, what does Kamala Harris do from here? Does she? I mean, she's seated her Senate seat, and Adam Schiff just won another one. So where does she go from here? Is there a future for Kamala Harris? Does she make another go of this in 2028?
That's a great question.
Is she the heir apparent? That seems to be what Democrats like to do. They like to go heir apparent instead of opening up the primary process.
I maybe she'll address that and say what she has eventually in mind. It's a great question, and you're right. Biden's going to go down on paper as a great president
for now.
I think back to infrastructure. That was the low-hanging fruit, that Trump couldn't get done. And when you look at like how Biden Harris brought down inflation compared to other countries, how well our economy is doing. It was a great presidency. And now, like I said, they couldn't even do infrastructure. What are they going to do? If they couldn't do that 4 years ago, what are they going to do now? They never told us what they're really going to do. I mean, positive in any way. They tell us they're going to expel 15 million people, things like that.
Good luck.
So tariffs, we'll see how tariffs work out.
Well, and somehow, the tariffs and somehow undo longstanding, healthcare policy when it comes to folks in prisons. The concepts of a plan. What's going to happen with the Affordable Care Act and the tens of millions?
Is there a McCain in the Senate that's going to save the Obamacare? But whereas back then you had Republicans maybe willing to go against Trump's wishes, not anymore. I don't see that happening.
Well, Lisa Murkowski.
That's true.
What's the snow? I mean. But even then, they have at least 54 of those votes.
Right.
So, it's not enough. It's not enough.
Right.
Well, we've got a daunting future that we have to face and some answers within the Democratic Party that need to be answered. And so, here we are. Again, I know you're listening Thursday morning, but we're having this conversation Wednesday morning in the immediate aftermath of what has been nothing shy of a dumpster fire of election results. You're listening to The Ron Show on America One Radio, Progressive Voices via TuneIn or wherever you podcast. All right, final 6 minutes or so of the Thursday Ron Show. And again, thanks for the hospitality. My friend Darrel inviting me down to his election watch party. And then on Tuesday, I had nothing to do after the show, so I was like, yeah, let's go down there. 6.5 hours later, and here I am, and we're sort of commiserating together. Misery does love company, and
Misery loves company.
Grateful.
So glad y'all were here last night. I want to go back and add to something we were just talking about. I just want to make clear, I voted for Kamala Harris. I did not vote just against Donald Trump, although I would have crawled through broken glass to do it, even in Louisiana, where the conclusion was foregone. I was extremely enthusiastic about her. So that's what makes this all the more painful. I definitely supported Hillary. I sent her money. It was different this time. I loved her, and we still lost. Yeah.
Well, but that also brings me to another transition I was going to make here while we got about 5 minutes. I think Democrats tend to look at their voting base in a tribal sense instead of an ideological sense. And I think it's time for Democrats to start pivoting towards the ideological sense. They look at the black and brown voter and think, oh, we've got the black vote. And they worked really hard to make that case so that there was no degradation of black male voter support. And I don't know what the numbers will bear out, but it looks like she probably did a really good job there. But the Hispanic vote is one that I think that they just kind of lazily count on, and you cannot count on that anymore. You have to think more from an ideological lens, which takes me back to stop pissing on progressives, stop shitting on grassroots organizers. I think back to Atlanta and Cop City and all the damage done at the grassroots level with the Stop Cop City movement. And, there's so much capitulation within the party for, moderate centrist or center-right even, ideology. thinking more from an ideologically tribal perspective might actually bear more fruit than trying to just say, "Oh, we're going after women voters." Well, white women said, screw that. We don't care. Or going after Hispanic voters when Hispanic men in general and specifically broke for Trump, or even going after just African American voters who aren't even the largest minority in the country anymore. That is a fertile base for the party, and I'm so grateful that African Americans have been so steadfast in being the foundation for the Democratic Party. But here's the reality: it's not enough.
Right. And we said last night they have no problem going after their base in plain sight. They will, say things, and here we are parading, hundreds of Republicans. I welcome their support, but, it didn't help in the end. And are we pandering to our base the way they do and the way we need to? Maybe not.
No. There's a conversation within African American politicos about reparations. Democrats are afraid to talk about reparations because they know it'll sour the very folks that they're trying to woo at the center and right.
We should maybe finally open that Overton window. Is that what it's called?
Start having a conversation about reparations. Start having a conversation. The tenuous Israel-Gaza thing. Well, I understand that the Jewish American vote's very important, and we don't want to lose that. But we also have to call a spade a spade. Bibi Netanyahu is a freaking monster.
Amen.
And it's time to start, flexing our muscle. Right. I guess the one fortunate thing we have now is that maybe in the last few months of Biden-Harris, Biden can just say, you know what, screw it, no more money, and start wooing, the actual peace, dovish, hawkish, or the dovish portion of the liberal base. Start thinking ideologically tribal and stop thinking, culturally, demographically tribal. That could be the answer. I guess, like I said, we'll have a few months of Biden not giving a damn to see.
Right.
And does this guy go for broke with executive orders and then, daring Trump to undo them?
Right. Let's see.
That's what his entire presidency should have been, in my opinion. He should have from day one been a one-term guy saying that was the case. An executive order, all of the wet dream fantasies that, the majority of the country are for, and then dare the right to run against them.
Oh, I have a feeling we're going to be seeing a lot of executive orders coming up after Biden.
But he doesn't even need that because he's got at least the Senate, probably the House, and the Supreme Court that's not going to lift a finger to stop him. That's the danger we're faced with.
Well, can't wait to find out.
Yeah, well, again, I know you're listening on Thursday. Those of you who listen, I do appreciate that, whether it's on the America One Radio app, AmericaOneRadio.com. We do air this 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern time. I'm Central right now. 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern, 5 to 6 p.m. as well. And then we replay at 11 p.m. until midnight on Progressive Voices via TuneIn. There will be a weekend version. I imagine a lot of this will be the weekend version that airs Saturday and Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. as well. And, of course, if you listen via podcast, thank goodness you do that. Whatever podcast platform you listen on, I do appreciate that. There will be show notes. I'll have them. Anything that I mentioned citation-wise today or yesterday or any day, you get those in the show notes at ronshowatl.com. So before I wrap, I've got about 45 seconds. You and I are of similar age. We're both in our 50s. Oh, God, I can't believe I'm saying that. Any wisdom to impart on some folks who may be listening who are younger, to give some promise, some hope that, brighter days are ahead?
It's hard. It's hard for me because I am so out of the loop. I'm 57, by the way, and you are 52.
50. You stop at 50.
And so I will hear, I've heard of Telegram, I've heard of Joe Rogan, never listened to his program. I hear more and more about all these programs and venues. So it's kind of bewildering to me. I don't know where people are going. I don't know where young people are going, but wherever they are, we have to. It's not my job to know. I'm not, a paid politico. We need to go there and get these young men or whoever it may be.
I will invite you to listen to yesterday's podcast with King Williams, and so that'll help you out with a lot of that. Thank you for listening to The Ron Show. Back tomorrow. Have a great day.